Here's a sneak peek for this week's episode.
Don't hang your whole trip on seeing the Northern Lights, because if you don't, it's going to really bum you out.
That's excellent advice. I'm Scott.
And I'm Melissa.
And we are the Sunshine Travelers. Our passion is travel and sharing our experiences with those who enjoy it as much as we do, or those who want to learn more about travel, or even those who just want to live vicariously through our travel stories. No matter where you fall along that journey, get ready to hear about our first-hand experiences as we visit some of the most interesting and amazing places on Earth. In this week's episode, we are journeying to a destination that has a lot of attention on social media this year. People from all over the world are traveling to locations in search of the Northern Lights. They are supposed to be at their peak this year, and travel enthusiasts from everywhere are trying to get their glimpse. Join us as we talk to a friend of ours about her recent trip to Norway and some of the exciting places she visited and fun activities she experienced along the way. So pack your bag, bring some warm clothes, and let's head to Norway. I was recently texting with a friend and business partner about an upcoming trip for work, and she said, "Oh, remind me to tell you about my trip to Norway." I immediately responded back to her with our Calendly link and said, "Let's get you on the podcast to tell the story."
I've had the opportunity to meet this week's guest on a couple of Scott's business trips. We had an immediate connection in our love of travel, and I'm surprised it has taken us this long to get her on the show. With that, let's jump right into the interview with Lacey as she shares her journey and her experiences in Norway.
Hey guys, this is Scott. I just want to take a quick minute and apologize to you because in this interview you're about to hear, I forgot to turn on Melissa's microphone. So although you're going to be able to hear her, it's not the quality that we expect for ourselves and want to have for you. We are joined this evening by a friend of ours that's recently returned from a trip to Norway, which is something that's been on our list for quite a while. So welcome, Lacey.
Hi, Melissa, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So Norway, how did that get, even in the realm of something that you wanted to do?
Well, there's an obvious answer, but I'm not going to state the obvious, especially during the winter time. But I read a book not that long ago, and it took place in Oslo and in Kirkenes. And in the book, they also went all the way up to Svalbard. I did not go to Svalbard, but I thought it sounded so interesting, especially hearing the character in the book talking about all the things that were in Oslo that sounded so interesting, and then in Kirkenes and talking about the snow hotel, and it just sounded like such a cool experience. So when I heard that 2024 was going to be the peak time to see the Northern Lights, I started looking at destinations, and to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. I got to kind of see that story come to life, so to speak, and experience it. And then there's obviously the icing on the cake, being able to see the Northern Lights as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Do you mind sharing what that was? Yeah, what your what your inspiration was? Because that's interesting, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a series by an author, Brad Thor. I don't know why. I love to listen to audiobooks, and I love to listen to kind of a spy action adventure. And the first book is, I think it takes place in Lucerne, but the book takes place, it's a series. It's been going on for quite some time, and it takes place all around the world. So I feel like it's exposed to me to a lot of, he must like to travel, the author. So that's the inspiration.
I was going to say it's probably a good way for him to write, investigate these places and stay there. Right? That's so interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
I was thinking Norway, like your inspiration has to be Frozen.
Yeah, right.
You would think so.
You weren't going to see Elsa and Anna?
No, but in the snow hotel, they do have themed rooms, and not surprising, many of them are frozen. So, so I guess I did kind of see that.
We watched a TV show that was, I think it's part of the Amazing Hotels series. If you listen to our podcast recently, you're going to hear a lot about Amazing Hotels because it's really informing like some of the places that we might want to go and see. And they stayed at an ice hotel. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not sure that's my thing. Do you actually stay in the snow hotel or ice hotel, whatever?
So I feel like such a phony for saying I stayed in the ice hotel. But what I really mean is they have these lovely cabins right next door with heated floors, and they're really quaint and charming with like cute places to sit and watch the snow. We stayed there.
Yeah, not phony at all.
We would stay there too, because I was just like, no.
There was nothing
Yeah.
about that looked or seemed comfortable.
Well, so you're paying the same price essentially. So, and then you only have access to the room or the room from the evening until I think like 8 or 9 in the morning. So it's a very short period of time. And there's no bathrooms. There's no electricity in the room. So you don't have your phone. If you have to get up in the middle of the night, you have to put your boots on and walk to the adjacent building. So for me, I would just prefer to have creature comforts and then be able to go visit, which if you're staying at the snow hotel, you can go in and out of the building when obviously people aren't sleeping. So we had kind of unlimited access to it. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Very cool. Because you go through they have now. So I guess I'm wondering, is there one of these, or are there lots of these in Norway? Do you know?
I'm not sure how many there are in Norway. I could be wrong. I think it may be the only one in Norway, but there are several in Sweden. I'm not sure about Finland.
Okay.
But I know in Tromsø, there's a lot of ice themes, and something that's, especially if people want to see the Northern Lights, one of the things that's really popular is these like igloo style glass roofed structures. Yeah. And so a lot of people will stay in those. Kirkenes didn't have that, but I think there may have been some places that were sold out. I also booked everything in August, and I do think all that stuff books out pretty far in advance. So it was a little bit limited. But Finland, so a lot of people that we met on the trip, they were hitting Kirkenes and they were also hitting Finland, because Finland has like Santa Claus Village and it's not that far. Yeah, in Lapland. And it's so, very similar kind of experiences, I would say.
Yeah, we've got to do an episode on Lapland. We haven't been, but we've got a real good friend in the UK who
goes every year.
Every year.
So I think that's just really cool. So real quick, then tell us the name of the place that you stayed. So we'll have that.
Yeah. So it's in Kirkenes, Norway, and it's called the Snow Hotel, I think, Kirkenes. So pretty easy to find. There's not a whole lot in Kirkenes. It's a pretty small community. It's an old mining town, and it's really close to Murmansk, Russia. So it's right on the border. And it's interestingly enough, it was one of the most bombed cities during World War II, which I didn't realize that till we went. So I think they said that they were bombed 328 times, which when you go there, it's such a tiny little place that kind of amazing that even happened. But yeah, it's called Kirkenes. It's a snow hotel, and it's really charming. I think they do a great job of just making kind of a whole experience. So you really wouldn't even have to leave if you didn't want to.
So how long did you stay there?
So we were there 4 nights.
Okay.
And from what I understand, it's pretty common for folks maybe just to stay 2 nights. I think we were one of the few guests, I think, that stayed 4. I think there was maybe another family that was there that was staying a couple days longer than we were. But from what I understood, a lot of people would just stay for 1 night, stay in the snow hotel, or they would do 1 night in the cabins, 1 night in the snow hotel. Personally, I think the cabins are really cute and charming, and I would do that. And I want to go visit the snow hotel personally.
Then the other thing I was going to ask, so then in the snow hotel, like you said, so each room has a different theme, and the one that we saw, they have different artists come in, I guess the season, right, and create these different themes. So we might actually be talking about the same place. We'll have to go check. So that's why the attraction, and then people can come for the day or overnight guests, right? And then you go through see everything.
Yeah.
Bundled.
Yeah, they're exactly very bundled up. There's a lot of cruises that go through there. They'll start in Bergen, and you can take various lengths of time on the cruise ship. So some people go all the way from Bergen to Kirkenes, and I thought it was interesting. A lot of the locals use those cruise ships almost as a way to get from point A to point B. But I don't think it's like a cruise ship, like there's nightlife. I think it's just dinners and food, and I think it's fairly quiet. And a lot of the ships are electric too. So it looked interesting. I wouldn't mind doing one of those one day because you can see a lot as well.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds neat. That's a good tip.
So, was there any special purpose for the trip, or was it really about getting up and seeing that spectacular Northern Light display and stuff like that?
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. I also really enjoy going someplace for New Year's. So we sort of celebrated New Year's there. So that was fun. One of my New Year's resolutions is I want to be traveling for my birthday and for New Year's. It doesn't have to be any place far or exotic, but there's just something about it. I don't know, just I like the idea of it. So that's one of my New Year's resolutions is to travel for those kind of dates. So
that's interesting. We like to do that too.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think the Russian New Year we learned recently is like January 6th.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. One of our recent guests was talking about, and I think it was in the Maldives episode where they were saying they like to go, in January, but they said the time frame that they usually go, there's a lot of Russian families visiting because the Russian New Year is January 6th. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's when they celebrate New Year out,
I didn't know. Interesting.
So if you ever want to travel with the Russians, January 6th is your time to do it. So how do you get to Norway? I mean, where do you fly into and stuff like that?
So from what I understood from talking to Norwegians, they're some of the most domestic flights in Norway just because it's difficult to travel and drive. So a lot of folks take those domestic airlines or you can take the cruise ships, like I mentioned, to get up to Kirkenes. So we flew from the US to Oslo. And then from Oslo, we flew up to Kirkenes. I will say, if you do go that route, expect some delays, especially in the winter. We were delayed going up and we were delayed coming back too. And there's not a whole lot to do at the Kirkenes airport. So come prepared with snacks if you're going to wait. It's basically like gas station hot dogs if you are stuck there. So there's not a lot there.
And I know how much you love a good hot dog.
Yeah, it wasn't really for me. Luckily, I always travel with a lot of snacks just because I have to be prepared.
Yeah. And so I imagine you don't do a lot of driving there, or do you?
We did not. I really wanted to go to Finland just because I've never been, but I was a little bit worried about the roads. Plus, it's the Arctic night. At least I don't know when exactly it starts, but they essentially don't really ever see the sun for around 70 days. So it's dark a lot. You do get kind of that golden hour light, but the sun never fully rises. And when it does, I think they said it rises for about 3 minutes and they're all like, oh, this is so nice. And then it sets again. So I was just a little bit nervous about that, but it's so amazing watching the locals drive around like it's no big deal. And, it's cold. You're in the Arctic Circle and it's negative whatever degrees, and you see people out running, walking their dogs, and doing all kinds of things that most of us would just be shocked at. I think it's an easy way to be able to identify somebody who's not from Norway because they're not wearing something reflective. Because all of the Norwegians are wearing something reflective. Either it's like a strap on a bag or something, just because they know they're going to be out and it's going to be dark. And we even saw that in Oslo, which I thought was interesting. But and even people walking their dogs, and they have these sort of like push sleds. And if you're walking your dog, you might like just kind of attach your dog at the front, and you're just kind of walking along. And then if you're on the downhill, you just kind of step on the little skis and slide down the hill. And people shopping in Kirkenes were using like little sleds to put their stuff in and then basically pushing them around the city. It was interesting.
That sounds cool. I think we'll have to take Lottie and Rupert. And I told them I needed.
The problem is that Lottie wouldn't want to.
She'd just lay down in the snow.
She would just lay down.
That is so. So they are to look like a local, wear something reflective on.
Yes.
Yes. That's so.
Yes.
That's a really good tip. I've never heard that before. So we might be the first to put that out there as a tip.
Yeah, you'll look like a local. Just have a reflective strap on your bag. Even like the nicest bags, I saw a reflective strap. So everybody was using them.
I've got some tape you can put on your. What's that bag you got? Anyhow, different story. All right. And while you were there, you guys did a few different activities and stuff like that. And share
Yeah.
a little bit about some of those.
Yeah, I think if you look up Kirkenes, you'll see king crabs everywhere. The story was, I don't know how accurate, I haven't looked this up, but I guess king crab, I think they come from Asia. And from what I understand, the Russians felt bad for the folks in Murmansk. They didn't really have anything special, I guess, for them. So they started importing these king crab. Well, they're invasive. And the Norwegians, they just started like popping up. And now it's become a pretty big industry. So anyways, make a long story short, we did do a king crab safari. And it was when we were there, they were talking about they fly these king crab from Kirkenes to Oslo live. And then they have like a king crab hotel apparently in Oslo where they can kind of chill out and relax for a couple of days. And then they fly them on to their final destination. And they were saying in like places like Singapore and things like that, a live king crab from Norway costs, I think they said maybe $3,000, $4,000. Kind of crazy. Anyways, so we did a king crab safari and there's a couple different places. We did one at the Snow Hotel. And you sort of like sit in the little sled and they drive you out on the ice. They pull the traps up. If you're there in the summer, you actually go out on a rib boat and pull the traps out of the water. And then they kind of like butcher them there on the ice. And then they bring them back to the Stowe Hotel. And it's basically all you can eat king crab. And I guess once they tell you how much they're paying for it in Singapore, you're like, this is a great deal.
Yeah.
And so at the Snow Hotel, they also have a lot of activities. They have sleds that you can grab and some hills. So you want to go sledding. There's snowshoes and things like that you can grab. And they have all the dog sleds there. So they've got all these dogs out. You can go and play with the dogs, hang out with the dogs if you want. And they have a puppy playpen as well. So if you want to get up in the morning and go see and hang out with the puppies, you can do that. And they actually have snow yoga. I did not do that. I'm not really a yogi anyway. And the thought of sitting out in the snow doing yoga just was not my jam. But we did take the snowshoes out and kind of walked around. And that was cool. And the other activities we did, we went snowmobiling through the Caspic forest. And you're kind of just going along the fjord. You're actually able to drive on the ice since it's frozen. We did that, and that was cool. And then we did hunting the Northern Lights by bus. And the reason that we chose the hunting the Northern Lights by bus, you can also do by dog sled or snowmobile, but they recommended the bus because you're able to go out farther and for longer because it's warmer. And we did see the Northern Lights on our first night there. And then our bus driver stopped us at the Russian border. I got out, took a picture, and ran back into the bus.
So I think now is as good a time as any to kind of talk about that experience of, seeing the Northern Lights. And it's interesting that you say that you went on a Northern Lights hunting tour because that's exactly how I've heard it described.
Yes. So you stop at a couple different places. The more remote, the better. So they take you out pretty far. And I guess it has to do with what's happening with the sun. And that's why you're seeing those solar flares. So they do educational sessions at the Snow Hotel and have somebody kind of speak about it. And then there's apps that you can turn on to for hunting the Northern Lights. And it's called the KP Index that also helps you determine whether or not the likelihood you're going to see them. So the first night, we drove out pretty far. The first place that we went to, we sort of saw them. Second place we saw them, it's just pretty awe-inspiring. I'm not going to lie. It sounds weird to be like, oh, there's the lights in the sky, but it's really cool, especially seeing them move, or people call it dancing. So seeing that, I know there are certain settings that you can get for your camera or for your iPhone. I didn't honestly mess around with it too much, but my iPhone just took great pictures. It was just my iPhone. My husband bought a GoPro, but I don't think that he really properly used it. So we really didn't get any good images. And he tried to leave it out one night. And I think the battery, even though it was brand new and had a full charge, lasted like maybe 2 hours because it's so cold. So your batteries die pretty fast there. But it was really cool seeing the lights, and it's just a big streak across the sky. And in our last night there, as we're getting ready to head to the airport, we're just hanging out in the lodge. And people are like, the Northern Lights, and everybody will tell you. And everybody just ran outside. So right outside of where we were hanging out, we saw the Northern Lights, and they were very vivid that night because they're not always super strong. But the last night was really strong. It was pretty amazing.
Oh wow.
That's awesome. And that was at the hotel?
Yeah. We just walked out, and actually we were in the sauna and trying to take pictures. So it was a little brisk, not gonna lie, but it was cool seeing it.
Yeah, you probably just don't think about the cold. You're just like, oh, the Northern Lights. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The pictures are amazing. And so you sent those to us. We're definitely going to be sharing those. That they were just incredible. But I think for that, it's one of those things that no matter how much you see pictures or videos, like it's one of those things for seeing it for yourself.
Yeah. I wanted to see it, but it's funny because going into it, I'd heard from so many people that they went on these trips and they didn't see the Northern Lights.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you can decide to go someplace just to see the Northern Lights, because I think it would be a bit of a letdown. I wanted to go because I wanted to see Norway. I've never been, and I wanted to see the snow hotel and experience it. We didn't do a dog sled ride. I had done dog sled rides before in Jackson, Wyoming. And while I thought it was cool, my neck hurt the next day. And I was like, I think I'm good. But the puppies were really cute. They were super enthusiastic. I think you look at those dogs and you think, oh my gosh, I bet they're cold. They are so excited and desperately wanting to get picked to go on one of the rides on the run. So the dogs were all so happy, and like, you're just curious why it's so cold and they're so happy, but they're just delighted to be there.
Well, that's just what that's what they're bred for, right? That's what they do.
Yeah.
Like that's their job. So that is so cool. Yeah. Well, and it sounds like a lot of people then, like you were saying, like they kind of rush, right? You have a day here and then you rush to do the next thing. But it sounds like because you've had so much time, then you got to really enjoy just relaxing, and then some of those other activities that just kind of made it relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the food was really good too at the hotel. So, and they have a sauna that you can go and enjoy. And we found out from the locals, apparently the Norwegian way of doing a sauna is you leave the sauna and you're supposed to grab handfuls of snow and basically just like basically just kind of like scrub yourself down with snow. Or I guess you could throw yourself into the snowbank if you're really brave, but I'm not that brave.
So we went to Arizona for Scott's birthday, and we stayed at a place in Flagstaff that had a Nordic spa experience. Now, there wasn't snow on the ground, but that's essentially, They had these little saunas, and you had to go along, and they told you, here's the circuit, right? So then either you're supposed to go under the shower or jump in the swimming pool. And it was, what would you say the temperature was then? Because in Flagstaff, in December, it's even, the elevation. So then you jump in the pool, and then they have like a hot tub, and then you can repeat.
I think it was close to the 30s, somewhere in the 30s at night.
So yes, we had a little taste of that in Arizona. So, but apparently the health benefits, right, are supposed to be.
Melissa actually jumped in the pool, and the pool temperature was 47 degrees.
I had to do it once, and it was cute because these other people were like, we saw you do that, and then we had to do it. We couldn't let you show us up or whatever. So, but yeah, it's
but you have to have one person on the outside, because if you're both in there and you get in trouble, like you're gone, because
you need to make a plan.
Yeah.
But I imagine
very cold.
So you do supposed to jump in the snowbank and do snow angels or something, and then
I guess. Or the guy likes to tell tourists that, and they were like, okay.
Videotape it.
I wasn't brave enough. After she jumped in that water, I was like, I can't do that. So I actually did the shower, but the shower was really cold as well.
It's brisk. We stayed, so in the book, he stays at a hotel in Oslo called The Thief, which is a very cool, the area is very trendy. It's a really nice area, and they have a beautiful spa. And so we stayed there, and they have saunas and everything. And they actually have an ice maker, or just shredded ice, just shaved ice coming out of it nonstop. So I don't think the guy was completely pulling my leg on the whole snow thing. If you want, You can also go and jump in the fjord if you're staying at the Thief, but it's a bit of a walk. So in my mind, I was like, I want to do it. If it was like right outside, I would have done it. But I think you had to like kind of like walk down the street. I was like, not doing that. But
Yeah.
Be so cool.
and your little spa slippers.
That's true. Oh, wow. And so did you do Oslo then when you first arrived before you went to the ice hotel, or how, like, kind of what was your overall like trip plan, just to give an idea?
Yeah, so we did Kirkenes and then we went to Oslo.
Okay.
So we flew from Oslo. We had a long 12-hour layover. In my head, I'm like, oh, we're going to go out and explore. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I ended up booking a day room and we just crashed at the hotel. And then we went to the airport, which it's right across the street. And I don't know, Norway is so, I never once felt unsafe. I never once felt like it was worried about pickpockets. It felt very safe, felt very easy, very approachable country. So really, definitely would go back. I'd love to go back in the summer, and it's supposed to be beautiful hiking. But yeah, so Oslo was the back end of our trip and we stayed for 3 nights. I will say their hours are different in Norway. So for instance, in Kirkenes, we went to grab lunch one afternoon and there's this great hotel right on the fjord. And we're like, oh, well, we'll just have a drink and like hang out and maybe go get lunch. And the bar's closed. The bar is closed until the evening. Didn't seem very American, you know?
Interesting. So for lunch, then even like you need to have lunch at a certain time, and then they're going to close the kitchen, and then dinner at a certain time. So that's like you see that in the UK sometimes, right? If you're not in London.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would definitely say pay attention to the time for sure. Now, I think at the Snow Hotel, it's probably different there. It's probably, we did eat at the little lodge. It was really charming. It's kind of everything. The local indigenous people in Norway are called the Sami, and they have this great little like cute little conical kind of open fire in the center, and you get your reindeer sausage and you can cook them over the fire yourself, or they have these sandwiches or stew, and they're all served in these quaint little like farming cups and things. So I think Snow Hotel, you'd have no problem. In town, we asked the hotel, we're like, okay, what is open there? They were like, well, at 1:30, this place called Surf and Turf is going to be open. And that was our only option. I mean, it's not like it's a huge town, but still there were several restaurant options, but it's somewhat limited. They definitely view things differently. And even when we were staying in Oslo, we were staying at the hotel, and the bar, restaurant, everything closes at 11. There's nothing open after that. Now the Thief was open later. I wanted to try 2 different hotels. I wanted to try the Sommarero and the Thief. So we stayed a couple nights at one and one night at the other. The Thief was open late, but yeah, if you're looking for nightlife, it might be a little bit of a struggle. In Oslo, you'd probably be okay. In Kirkenes, not so much.
So bring your book and just
relax.
Enjoy.
Yeah. So was there Wi-Fi, internet, and TVs and stuff? Or
no TV. No TV.
But Wi-Fi.
But Wi-Fi, yes. And the food was good. I really enjoyed it. And they accommodated me being vegan. My husband's not vegan. He was happy with the food. If you're not okay with reindeer and eating reindeer, you may want to make a special request. But they had, like Arctic char and things like that on the menu if you eat. So, and the food was really good. So
yeah, I kind of think of you as a foodie a little bit.
Yeah.
A few times that we've, had dinner together and stuff like that. You picked some really good, but more what I would consider foodie scene restaurants and all. So what did you think of the food, comparatively, and how well they do and kind of helping you and your dietary concerns, stuff like that?
At the Snow Hotel, they were very accommodating. So they had something set out for me for breakfast, and they did a nice job with that. And then for dinner, they made something different every night. It is a little bit of a fixed plate. So if you're staying at the Snow Hotel, I think you can purchase the dinner, but I think it's a little bit of a fixed course, and they'll accommodate your dietary restrictions, but it's not like you can just order off of the menu. It's kind of like what they've prepared that night. So, but it was great. I will say I didn't realize that it was sort of a set time when they ate, and they probably told me everything. I didn't pay enough attention. Our flight came in late that night, so technically we missed dinner, but the staff stayed, and they stayed and kept everything up for us to eat, which was really very kind of them. So, but I thought the food was really good. I enjoyed it. I thought, and the staff super friendly. A lot of them are from all over, so they were all very friendly, and everybody was. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. I wouldn't have any issues with food. I was a little bit worried going into it, and I brought a lot of snacks, and I was really happy with it. So
that they are accommodating, and then just like with your delays and stuff like that. So Scott asked you about driving. So then how far was the town, and did you go there often, and how did you get there?
yeah, so we did not have a car. The Snow Hotel can pick you up by husky taxi. So if you want to get really fancy, you can actually get picked up by dog sled, which would be very cool. It was pretty expensive. So I opted for the more economical, and I just booked it through Kirkenes Taxi. But there's really no Ubers, at least in Kirkenes. There is in Oslo. So you almost have to arrange it that way. It was almost double the price to book it through the Snow Hotel. So I booked through Kirkenes Taxi. And the poor guy, he said he'd been waiting at the airport for us for almost 2 hours.
Wow.
I can't imagine any taxi driver doing that. So they were lovely. So getting there, it took about 15 minutes to get from the airport to the hotel. Word to the wise, you have to walk on the tarmac. So dress accordingly if it's winter, because you're going to be and carrying your stuff up the stairs. So make sure you're able-bodied enough. And it was interesting because we were on the flight. There were tons of Norwegian soldiers because it's something where they're all in the military. There's all these like young military-aged kids on the plane, and they're going off to the military base, and we're all off to our winter adventure. So it was a little bit interesting kind of seeing that juxtaposition. And so, yeah, so getting into the town, probably about 15, 20 minutes, depending on where you're going. I would say ask the Snow Hotel if you can just catch a ride on one of the buses, because they have tours going in and out. It'll probably save you $40 to $50, depending, because they say things are expensive in Norway, and they certainly are expensive.
So that's good to know. It's definitely more expensive destination, but I mean, it's remote, right? And like, it's harder to get like food, especially in the winter. So I imagine, that's why it's like, okay, these are the options, and it's not, whatever you want. And then these are the times that, yeah. So I would guess then a lot of local people probably like fix their meals at home and eat at home. There's not a lot of going out to eat then. Like what,
probably not
common in the US. Interesting.
Probably not. But yeah, we just tried to time it with catching a ride on one of the buses. And then they would just drop you off at the hotels, which are right in town. So it was pretty easy. So we would only have the one-way taxi back to the hotel. So it worked out well.
Okay.
So what would you say was your most memorable experience from the trip?
Probably just going and experiencing the Snow Hotel. I think you can go crazy doing the activities, but just seeing it, like one of my favorite things that we did, they opened there's an actual bar made entirely of ice in the Snow Hotel. So the bar stools are ice. They're covered with the reindeer hide, and there's even tables that you can stand and like hang out at. But they don't keep it open all the time. But after dinner, they'll open it for guests that want to go and experience it. For obvious reasons, they only serve hard alcohol because anything else is going to freeze, right? Yeah. So it was fun just getting to know some of the other guests, hanging out there, and they serve everything in these little ice shot glasses. And what you do is you take a shot and then you break it on the corner of the bar. And I've got to say, there's something very cathartic about taking a shot and just slamming your glass down and breaking it.
And yeah, just something that you can't do just anywhere, right? Just anywhere.
It was really fun.
I imagine there's a lot of vodka.
I think there's a lot of vodka there, yes. And Fireball and everything else you can possibly think of. So whatever you're into.
There you go. Well, one of the things that we often ask Melissa to do at the end of a destination episode is to give us a packing list. So let's ask you, what do we need to pack on this trip?
Well, I can tell you, I had no idea what to pack. and I tried to read about it. So I think it's a great question. I brought a lot of hand warmers and feet warmers. So I know that my feet get really cold. So I came prepared. I bought like the Costco size thing of hand and feet warmer. So if you need any, I'm your girl. And, but I did use quite a bit of them. And my husband and I both had no idea. We've gone skiing before, and obviously you're pretty active and all your stuff gets kind of gross. We brought way too many socks and way too much of everything, honestly, because you're not super active for the most part. So we probably could have cut the number of winter socks that we brought in half. I would say having for things like snowmobiling and things are going to be out for a prolonged period of time where it's going to be cold, I would get those like liner socks, do your little toe warmers, get the really thick ones, and then obviously brought winter boots, and I like mittens, and I would keep I keep a pair of mittens in my hand warmers in my mittens. And then I would also keep hand warmers in my pockets. So wherever my hands were, they were warm. But you don't really have to go crazy. Now we brought some pretty big bags because obviously winter stuff is bulkier. But if you had like one pair of snow pants, maybe some fleece lined tights, if you're a girl, you really don't have to get too crazy. I way overpacked. I would say that in a heartbeat. I feel like I was kind of wearing the same things, and no one's really seeing what's under your stuff because you're wearing your big bulky coat a lot. So, and it's a pretty casual environment up there, so you don't have to get really dressy. So I would say whatever you're thinking of packing, you can definitely cut it in half and you would probably be fine.
That's good.
I think that's true on most trips, honestly.
Yes. You're like, I'm going to change my outfit.
As far as like checking bags and carrying on. So, because I imagine like, obviously a smaller plane than you fly, overseas, but like what size was the plane? And you were able to just check bags from Oslo, no problem.
Oh, it was no problem. It was a pretty good sized plane. It was 3 rows each side. So it's a pretty big plane going from Oslo to Kirkenes. Now there are smaller planes I saw going to some of the other places like Tromsø and Trondheim and some of those other spots. But I think you would be fine going, and we had no problems with our bags. So, and most people are carrying pretty bulky things. Like most people have camera equipment, drones that they're bringing with them. So we saw a lot of camera equipment, a lot of drones.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Well, then we also ask 3 questions at the end of each interview. So all of our guests get these same 3 questions. What is the favorite place that you've ever visited? And any stories on why? It doesn't have to be Norway, right? It can be anywhere else.
So a recent trip that I took that I really enjoyed was going to Italy, but especially Sicily. So going to Syracuse and this great little place and just jumping off the cliffs into the water was one of my favorite experiences. So
Sicily is one of those underrated places, I think. We've had a lot of recommendations for Sicily. It wasn't necessarily on our original bucket list.
Yeah. And Lacey, if you want to share real quick, you shared something with us about like how to get to Sicily before we started recording that might be of interest. So you want to share that about the train and then what maybe you would do instead?
So Sicily is there's no bridges that connect Sicily to the mainland in Italy. So you have to get there. If you're going by car or even by train, you're going to be on a ferry, which I thought was really fascinating. I guess it's one of the only trains in the world where they actually load the train onto the ferry and so your train's just floating along in the water, which I thought was fascinating. I don't know that I would do it again, but in my mind, I thought it'd be really cool and had my stepson with me. So I was like, oh, I think he'll be into this. And I think if we did it again, I'd fly or drive, but it was an experience and we did it.
Yeah. That's the thing, is creating those experiences.
And making those recommendations to other people. So that's good to know. Interesting.
I realized I did forget one of the excursions that I meant to mention. So I just think it's something kind of different. So one of the things we did was I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, the Anders Grotto bomb shelter in the town of Kirkenes. So it's actually owned by the Snow Hotel. And from what I understand, he used to be a producer or movie director, and he actually made a little short film. You kind of watch it and go through this bomb shelter, but it's where all the citizens of Kirkenes went during the bombings during World War II. So it was really interesting seeing it. But I'm a big World War II fan. I always like that history. So for anybody that's going, it's interesting to see it, certainly.
I love that you mentioned that though, because when you can take a trip like this and you can have like a vacation, right? You had some relaxing elements, and then you can have some nature experiences, but then you get to experience some history and then some local, the people and the food. You just get like a broad range, right? Of experiences. So I love that you shared that. Yeah.
Well, the next question is, what are the top things on your bucket list? I say top 3, but some people don't have a long bucket list.
I have a long list.
Yeah, that's what
I have a long list. I would really like to go to Tanzania. I'd like to go see Zanzibar and try and do a safari. I was hoping I could do it this year with some friends, but it didn't work out. But that's on my list. I know you guys have been to the Galapagos. I'd like to go do that as well. I'd love to go to the Maldives. I've really never been to anywhere in Asia. I'd like to go to some so few countries. I'd love to see South Korea. I'd love to see Japan. I don't know, you name it. I think I want to see it. So I'd love to go to Antarctica. That's one place I would love to go. It's really, I would like to see it all, honestly.
Well, if you can hold out on Antarctica, we're trying to look at the opportunity to do a group cruise to Antarctica.
Yeah,
let me know.
Well, that's on their list, and we're like, oh, well, maybe we can all go together, and it would be really fun. So
that would be really cool. I've seen some videos where people talk about cold plunges.
Yes.
They jump off of the ships into the water.
They actually put a rope on them so they can pull them back in case they freeze up.
You're gonna have to all jump. So if we do that,
I'll go last.
Yeah.
No way, Scott.
And then just finally, where are you going next?
Well, I'm going to London. Well, actually, no, I take that back.
May run into each other there.
May run into each other. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to St. Martin on Wednesday.
Yeah, that was kind of the last minute thing, huh?
It was last minute. I've never been. So I don't know if any of your listeners have any recommendations, but I'm probably already going to be there and back by the time this comes out.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, so then going to London, and then from there actually going to see a friend in Spain. So I'm flying into Malaga, so we're going to be in that Andalusian area, and we're going to go to Cordoba. So I've never been, and she's the planner, so I'm just kind of showing up. So it should be fun.
That's fun.
Melissa, maybe you can post something out on Instagram or whatever, looking for recommendations.
Be great. So now, was that something you said that was last minute? Was that just we need to get away last minute, or did you find a good deal, or how did that?
So I think coming back from being in the Arctic Circle, I like to go someplace warm during the winter, kind of break up the trips. I'm in Ohio, so we don't really get snow, which is part of the reason I like going places that are really snowy. We don't really get any. It's sort of gray and cold, but I like to go and just get a little sunshine, at least in the winter every year.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we'll see if we can get some recommendations for you.
Perfect.
Well, excellent. Well, Lacey, thank you for spending the time with us. And, if you go on any other great excursions or trips, you got to let us know.
Definitely. I would say after that trip, my husband and I both said this was such a unique experience going and experiencing that. So for anybody who's sort of considering it, I would highly recommend it. But don't hang your whole trip on seeing the Northern Lights, because if you don't, it's going to really bum you out.
That's excellent advice. I've never known anyone that's personally gone to one of these ice hotels before. We've been watching the BBC series called Amazing Hotels, and one of the places that they visit is an ice hotel. And I just couldn't help but think that this really isn't something that I would find very pleasant, because even the bed is made of ice. But I really liked her perspective that it was there and she could visit the room, but she didn't have to stay in it and spend the night inside the ice room.
Yeah, me either. And Scott, I don't like to miss out on experiences, but I think this one is a little extreme. One of those glass igloos that she talked about where you can see the stars and maybe the Northern Lights right in the comfort of a warm bed would be awesome. It sure beats having to get up in the middle of the night at the ice hotel and having to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's important to note that for anybody listening, this year is not the only time that you're going to have a chance to see the Northern Lights. This is a regular recurring phenomenon, but this year there's an increase in solar activity, which increases your odds of being able to see it. So I think that's why everybody is flocking there this year. But I've also read that it's believed that this phenomenon may actually last for a couple of years. So if you don't have plans right now to go and see the Northern Lights, I think you still have plenty of opportunity. So don't worry about it.
I think it is a good reminder, though, and Lacey mentioned it, is that you really shouldn't plan a trip and that be the key aspect. Because then, the whole trip just feels like a disappointment. But of all these things she talked about, there were so many other amazing things that it's almost like icing on the cake. And so I think you really have to keep that in perspective, as hard as that would be.
Yeah, one of those things that she talked about in the interview is the crab safari that they did. So she has shared some videos with us that we're going to post on Sunshine Travelers Podcast, our social media pages, that you're not going to want to miss. And if you're a crab leg lover like I am, be prepared to be absolutely jealous.
Yeah, you're not going to believe the size of these.
And how many.
Yes. And how many. Lacey did give us some great tips on packing. So don't overpack. You're going to spend a lot of time in your sweaters and your parka. No one's going to see your outfit. So pack about half of what you think that you'll need. One pair of snow pants or fleece lined tights. It's a very casual environment, even for dinner. And so make sure that you have good warm layers. And I would say make sure that you have one of those mitten clips that she found really useful. And I think the hand warmers and the foot warmers too.
But she even said that she had way too many of those because she bought the Costco size package of them. So if you need hand and foot warmers, maybe you want to reach out to Lacey because I think she's got quite a few left.
So she also had the other recommendation for visiting Sicily. And so that was a cool story about the train that goes on the ferry too, and whether or not she would do it again, but sounds very cool.
I'm trying to picture this. I'm going to have to go Google it because I just can't picture the train being on a ferry. I don't know what that looks like in my head. We thought that this year might be a good time to try and catch our own glimpse of the Northern Lights, but with everything else that we've got planned already, this is just going to have to stay on our bucket list a little bit longer. And if you've been to Norway and have an experience that you'd like to share with us, please email me, scott@sunshinetravelers.com. I'm always excited to hear from you, and I'm inspired by your travel journeys.
When you're looking at booking your reservations for this trip, we like to use Booking.com. You can choose from over 1 million properties worldwide, from cozy country homes to sleek city apartments. You can find the best deals with their price match promise. Enjoy great stays at lower cost. And because flexibility matters, book with confidence, knowing that you can cancel with ease. You can also make informed choices with millions of reviews from fellow travelers. Start your adventure now. Visit sunshinetravelers.com/booking to book your perfect stay. Using this affiliate link to book your experiences and travel helps support our podcast and allows us to continue to provide new content each week. Please consider using this link when booking your next travel. There is no extra cost to you, and we are compensated through the affiliate.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and will find some inspiration to help you with your travel journeys. Please consider going on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. The more 5-star reviews we have, the more likely we are to be featured and discovered by others. Make sure to follow or subscribe to our podcast to be notified of new episodes as they are released. You can also find us on Instagram as Sunshine Travelers Podcast. Remember, that is travelers with 1 L. Most importantly, share it with your friends to help them catch the travel bug. You never know, they may become your greatest travel companion.